Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. If you enjoy these videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel right here on Watchbox Reviews. This way, I can deliver my best to you daily. Every minute, every watch, right here on Watchbox Reviews. And if you enjoy these watches, see them with boxes, papers, high-res images, all accessories and complete pricing on our website, thewatchbox.com, with the largest single-source repository of pre-owned and vintage luxury watches on the internet. The watch on my wrist is the Calibre de Cartier Diver, a model that debuted in 2014 based on a movement that came out in 2010. This may be the Cartier round watch to own. Handsome, wearable, contemporary, and versatile. It doesn't wear like a typical 42mm sports watch. On my 16cm circumference wrist, yes, it's 42 from 9 to 3, not inclusive of crown or crown guard, but it's a compact 42, thin, 11mm thick right there. It's 1.6mm thinner than a Rolex Submariner. It will fit underneath any jacket, but also the dress sleeve beneath, should you wish to dress it up. 48.5mm lug-to-lug means it stays under the critical 50mm lug-to-lug measurement that I consider important for those who have smaller male wrists. My definition of that is 14 centimeters to 16.5 centimeters circumference. Important is that the bracelet, which is thoughtfully recessed into the lugs and underslung beneath the case, it does not project beyond the lugs as the end links are pivoted and they arc around the wrist. You'll also note in profile, this watch has camber or curvature, so it rides down and around the sides of your arm rather than flaring out. If you're borderline to wear this watch, say 14 centimeters circumference wrist, you're going to find that it seems to blend down around your arm rather than flaring out the way something like a Panerai Luminor 1950 or Rodiumir 1940 would with its long straight lugs. This is a handsome watch, looking the part on a smaller wrist and feeling the part, comfortable and planted. Of course, many of these Calibre de Cartier divers are shipped on straps, which means we're often used to seeing them equipped that way. But it's Rolex's world and we just live in it, which means that the bracelet option is an important one to consider. For many, there is no modern dive watch without a bracelet included. Straps are simply a vintage look. The bracelet completes the aesthetic. Cartier does bracelets, but not the way Rolex does. First, there's no projected solid end link beyond the lug, so the watch wears true to its size. Second, the individual links themselves are very broad, but they're also pre-curved, so you can see how they create a curvature. When you line them up end to end, they start to arc around the wrist. The channels underneath are huge for robust venting of the wrist on a hot day, as well as total avoidance of pinching skin or pulling hair. Another distinction is that every individual link is removable, so you can really size this one down quite precisely, even considering the size of the links themselves. The clasp is quite secure, and critically, you can see not just secure, but twin trigger release means this one cannot accidentally pop open. You must positively disengage by pressing both triggers. It's a solid piece, it's a comfortable piece, as it's got a little bit of a curved profile to trace the arc of the underside of the wrist. What I enjoy is that it's not trying to be a oyster clasp, which is to say it's not big, bulky, and particularly prone to sticking its head above the parapet and sustaining scratch damage. So unless you desperately need a dive extension, that is the way to go in terms of design for everyday use. Now I'll add this. You can always put the watch on a strap if you want to extend it over a dive suit. Cartier has many options for you. So let's talk a little bit about the case. It's a beautiful case, and it's anything but a generic dive watch vessel. As you can see, the lugs themselves are heavily sculpted, dramatically pronounced. There's a little bit of a recess to the space between the lugs, both the portion that's the case and the portion that's actually the end link of the bracelet. A combination of polish and satin finish for contrast. You'll note that the flanks of the case are all of satin finish, but the lugs themselves project out beyond the case to create a strong vertical cleft at both ends of the case, so that character line quite strong. You'll note the attention to detail and that there is actually a polished bevel on the underside, as well as a very subtle polished knurling outboard of the bezel. So you can see that little polished profile on the underside of the lugs themselves, almost like a jewelry accent that you can see when you look at the watch on the wrist in profile. And then there's that polish of the knurling of the bezel, plus the polish of the screws set within the lugs. Small elements of contrast hit hard with this watch, right alongside subtle features like the polished bevel on the top of the lugs, which is symmetrical around the entire case, and the polished facets with the satin finished interiors of the crown guard structures. Now, the bezel itself requires some clarification. It is amorphous diamond-like carbon, which is a very hard and resistant material. The blue bezels are made of ceramic, and those can shatter. The black bezels are ADLC, so at worst they can scratch, a little bit more scratch prone than the ceramic, but not shatter or fracture prone the way ceramic can be. So it's a little bit of a trade-off. Some will prefer the black and the shatter resistance, other will prefer the blue and the scratch resistance. Now, there is a very audible and highly agreeable ratchet to this bezel. It's not excessively difficult to move if you want to line it up with the broadsword style minute hand and then do a quick 0 to 60 minute count up timing. It's a wonderful timing device whether you're submerged or not. Landlubbers will find plenty of applications for a dive bezel, but from a sound and feel perspective, the closest thing I could compare it to would be true dive watch royalty, the Blancpain 50 Fathoms reference 5015, or for example a Grand Seiko SBGA 29 diver. It's a refined feel. It definitely has more of a Cadillac-like smoothness to it than the hard, loud report of something like a Panerai Luminor submersible. The bezel is dished, so you can see it's actually higher at its outer circumference than inboard, and it leads down to a dial that is flamboyant, distinctively Cartier, and yet highly functional. Blackened hands leave only their luminescent aspect to contrast against the matte finish of the dial. You'll note that there's actually a step down from the center dial to the hour track, plenty of luminescence, and you'll get a real good sense of that in a moment when we do the lume shot. It's a legible dial day or night, and the entire ring around sub-seconds is fully lumed, so a sensation day or night. This is a thoughtfully designed and imaginatively designed luxury product. Now the triple date, you may wonder why. There's a functional logic there. First of all, I like having a date because I tend to wear my dive watches on land, where this information is practical and useful on a daily basis. Now if I were to cover up the current date with the hand, you'd be able to see the succeeding and the preceding date, and thus you would be able to tell what day it is. Thus the triple date. It's a functional property of the watch, not simply a styling trait. You'll also note a beautiful polished bezel surrounds that triple date, and the crown itself is a little bit of an event, a combination of a faceted cabochon and faceting with polished finish. The crown itself is almost like a jewel set within a jewel. It's almost like a metal jewel with a gem within it. You'll also note that the crown guard structures are assembled with screws, so they have a little bit more of a modular aesthetic than the molded-in shoulders that you see on most entry-level divers. This is a different way of doing it, but it provides the same protection from shearing when the crown is threaded down. It is a screw-down crown, 300 meters water-resistant, inside Cartier 1904 PS Petite Seconde manufacture caliber, 27 joules automatic winding twin mainspring barrels for excellent isochronism, that is consistency of torque to the escapement from maximum wind to minimum wind. So you've got the twin mainspring barrels in the 48-hour reserve, the automatic winding, hacking seconds, and a quick set date. It's a full-featured in-house caliber that is sports watch tough and was originally designed with the Calibre de Cartier and the Calibre de Cartier diver in mind. So a perfect fit between product and power plant. This is a watch that offers a lot. To the connoisseur, you have a great name from a house that will be around forever to provide parts and service. To the dive watch enthusiast, it's a true ISO statutory diver. And for those who are looking for something that's simply relief from the monotony of Rolex, Omega, and Breitling in the sports watch class, well, your ship, or perhaps I should say, your submersible, has come in. See it on the watch box. And we're back with the Cartier Calibre de Cartier diver. As you can see, highly functional. You can see hands, indices, the explosive luminescence of the sub-second, stylized Roman numeral 12, and of course that index on the diving bezel. You can see it by the light of day with full boxes, papers, and accessories on the watch box.